The center
No, that was definitely second.
that I consider.
Okay, ready? You're not sorry?
He must know it.
Yeah, this is Jason. Jason.
Oh, Jason. Oh.
Sorry.
Hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. So, you want to go?
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
You have your multitasking.
We're gonna have a short introduction.
I don't have to worry to turn on my shirt. Has no battery.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Did you see my Yes, I saw it. Yeah.
Well, so thank you everybody for coming, and really happy that I see more faces today, and it seems that we are taking off and growing as a group. And I'm really honored to have today key speakers, Yasmina and Claudia, but also especially Nadine Williams, which is here visiting us from Toronto.
Hello.
She's a special guest today. So perhaps maybe we could have like a short introduction, like maybe 30 seconds to each person, so we know who we are, and then we start the presentations. So who wants to start? Maybe Claudia, you wanna start presenting yourself, like 30 seconds short presentations?
Hello everyone, my name is Claudia Salguero. I am a Colombian artist, and I arrived to Canada in 2010. And doing lots of different kind of things. I started as a photographer, then digital artist, and I've been working in different kind of media since. But right now I work as a community engaged artist, and that has been giving me a lot of opportunities to learn things that I hope I can share with you.
Thank you. And Yasmina?
Hi everyone, my name is Yasmina Proveyer. I've been in Ottawa for about 10 years now, and I originally am from Havana, Cuba, and I do produce shows, promote a lot of world music artists, and I work for the Juno Awards and Sunfest Festival, which is the world music festival in London, Ontario, and I'm very involved with the music industry. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Sorry, what was that last part? I'm very involved with
The music industry in
Ah,
Canada.
gotcha, okay.
Hello everybody, my name is Miguel. I'm from Cuba. I've been living here for 4 months. I'm a musician. I recently moved here to live with my stepmother, Yasmina, and my father, and I'm happy to be here also.
Hi, bonjour. My name is Jean-Marie. I represent the coalition of Black Francophones in Ontario. So we're kind of like a French group. So I'm happy to be here. I was born, in case you guys worry about, I was born in Cameroon, so.
Oh, nice. Thank you for coming.
Jason Saint-Laurent, I'm the curator at Saw Gallery, which is a center I'll be here to talk to you about briefly.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
I'm Nicole Zuber. I work for the city in the cultural area, and I'm here today to learn, to listen, and to meet hopefully all of you later. And thank you. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde. Bienvenue à Monsieur du Président francophone.
I am Fabiola. I am from Brazil, and I am a visual artist, and I'm working with the Syrian refugees and some seniors.
My name is Ana Maria Cruz Valderrama. I am a social activist. I advocate for senior issues. And when I say this in general about all seniors, not a particular seniors, but I am the executive director for Casa de los Abuelos. I also work with the Let's Lunch program and the Nites and Natters group. And I would say I look at visual art as a therapy. I corporate study art, that looking at art as a form of therapy for keeping us busy, exploring our other abilities that we have, because sometimes When we are younger, we don't have the interest in exploring art. We focus on other things, and then come when we retire and exploring and see and being engaged with the community, with seniors. I see that art is very important to contribute to the well-being of seniors, because aging is not about just waiting to see when we die. Aging is a process that we learn a lot with a different view and perspective of things and the world.
Thank you, Maria.
Hi everyone, I'm Nadine Williams. I am a proud Canadian of Jamaican descent. I am a poet, an author, an art educator, as well as a visual artist. And I'm very happy to be here with you guys.
And thank you for coming.
I am Lily. I'm a songwriter and sometimes I sing my songs.
I love that. I wanna make you gotta sing for us before we leave.
Hi, my name is Aymara and I'm from Mexico City. I'm a multidisciplinary artist and I love to be here and I care about community, so that's why I like to be here and help for the artists immigrant community.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carmel Whittle. I'm originally from Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm a Mi'kmaq, Irish descent, and I'm a visual artist, musician, filmmaking, multi, I guess. And I've been working with Gallery 101 over the last year as the Indigenous liaison and community outreach.
I'm Silvia Alfaro. I'm from Colombia. I have been here for almost 25 years. I'm an architect and 14 years on that in Colombia and Canada. But for 15 years I have been a cultural promoter through cultural magazines and books and organized concerts and art exhibitions, but mainly now I'm focusing on publishing books.
My name is Alejandro Salgado, and I'm an artist too, but mostly now I'm organizing our community, and basically this is the project in which I'm working almost full time now. So thank you everybody for coming. I'm really happy to see you all.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Natalie Zuniga. I come from Cusco, Peru. I've been in Canada for about 18 years. Currently, I'm working at the City of Ottawa in cultural development and heritage and cultural development. I'm supporting Alejandro in this project.
Thank you. So today we have a lot of guests, a lot of talks. So I think we're going to start with Jason because he needs to leave soon, but then we could continue with you too. Oh, we forgot Oscar. Yeah, sorry. Oscar, we want to...
Yeah, sure. Okay, my English is not as well as you.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's new, but I'm trying.
We understand. We've been there.
Okay, thank you. My name is Oscar Parra. I'm from Colombia, and I'm a multidisciplinary artist too. I start with theater in Colombia, and I go to Argentina because I would like to know another technicals of art about theater. But I finally start cinema and TV production. And then I work on that, but I found a Quebecoise, a lady from Quebec, and that's bring me here. I follow the love. So now I do photography, and it's a good day because I met Marcela, who told me about this meeting, and for me it's lottery. So that's it.
For us too.
That's awesome, and your English is great.
Thank you. That's right. Sometimes I don't know some words, so it's like rusty. That's right.
It's pretty good.
Thank you.
Now you have to learn French.
No, I'm speaking French.
I'm
Yeah.
sure he
I'm speaking Portuguese too.
Great.
That was good. Yeah.
Brazilian?
And Edgar,
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Edgar Hernandez. I'm an interdisciplinary artist based in Ottawa. And yeah, I'm glad in helping out this amazing artist multicultural coalition.
thank you. Okay. So, Jason, all yours.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you, Edgar, for inviting me to talk to you about SAW and its various programs that might be of interest to you. So SAW is an artist-run center. It's been around since 1973. It's currently under construction for an expansion that will make SAW one of the largest artist-run centers in the world. Much thanks to the City of Ottawa for kickstarting this Arts Court redevelopment project. We're all very excited because we'll be opening a venue that will have not only expanded galleries, we'll have a multidisciplinary venue called Club SAW for music, performance, theater. It's a multidisciplinary venue that also has a deployable gallery that you can open up in the space so you can have one-night exhibitions, close it up, have a dance party. It's meant to be very, very flexible. And it also has a strict mandate to support cultural events. And SAW, in addition, has a mandate to support diverse artists. So artists of color, queer artists, indigenous artists. That's been kind of a sort of a mainstay of our center since the early 70s, is to support diversity. So we have an exhibition program, and if you are a visual artist, you can apply to our call for submissions every year and have a show where we fully support you. We pay artist fees, we pay for all the costs associated with the show. And so one of our missions is that when you have a project at SAW, you come away with your artist fee intact. We're not going to expect you to frame your own work or to pay for your travel or to pay for your shipping. Our philosophy is that you come away with something, because artists need to be paid at the end of the day. So that's an important feature of our center. We also give grants. They're called exhibition assistance grants. And those are for exhibitions anywhere in Canada or the world. So if some of you have an exhibition planned in your home country, for example, we can support you for up to $2,000 for, it can't support the production of the work, so it won't pay for your canvas and paint, for example, but it will pay for shipping of your work, framing of your work, printing of an invitation, paying for the technician. All of those costs are eligible. And again, because of our mandate, we have a specific, with this program, a specific attention paid to artists of color and artists from diverse communities. Then we are building what is called the Nordic Lab as part of our new center. This is a completely new initiative for us. And we're essentially connecting Canada's north, so Nunavut and Nunavik principally, with Scandinavia and other Nordic countries to encourage Indigenous and non-Indigenous collaborations that will take place here in Ottawa. We've always had a very important and privileged relationship to the north. You know, Ottawa's a direct line to Nunavut. That's why we have such a vibrant Inuit community here, and that's something we wanted to reflect in our new sort of attitude. And but then, you know, part of the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations was to increase the number of collaborations between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, and we thought we could do that through this lab to encourage projects that have social impact. So we'll be bringing all kinds of Nordic artists, Sami artists to Ottawa, as well as Inuit and Nunavik-based artists to Ottawa to work on projects together. So that will bring a certain kind of dynamism to our center. And then lastly, we're launching what is called the SAW Art and Protest Initiative. So as part of this Nordic Lab, there'll be full screen printing facilities that will be accessible to the community. So if any of you work in screen printing, you need to come talk to me. It's, you know, a full-on octopus press to do large-scale projects. And what we're doing is every month we'll be selecting a group that has a protest action or an action of some kind. So let's say Black Lives Matter has something coming up. They would come to us, say we're thinking of doing this action. Then we would pair that organization with, well, in this case, it would be, poetic to work with a black artist and a black designer to devise of a campaign. Then SAW will pay for all the printing of the materials, from the protest signs to the buttons to the t-shirts. And so we help, sort of have these political actions have more impact because of the contributions of artists and designers to sort of like bring up the message somehow. So, because we'll be having a full-time club, the Club SAW will be a licensed venue. We want to take the profits from that and invest it into social change. So we're not like any other artist-run center in the country. We take politics seriously. It's really part of our DNA. Everyone feared with our expansion that we would become this kind of snooty little institute for contemporary art. That's not how our board thought about things. They're like, how do we remain grassroots? How do we support the community? And so that's SAW in a nutshell. We are opening on July 19th. If you like us on the SAW Gallery page on Facebook, you'll actually be invited to the opening. It's a 24-hour opening because we're kind of punked that way. For those of you that are interested in submitting to SAW for an exhibition, or that you're interested in these grants, and the grants I talked to you about, the exhibition assistance, it can be anywhere from a major museum to a show in your own studio. So we don't have a hierarchy of venues. You decide for yourself what's important to your career, and then we help make it happen. I didn't realize there'd be so many of you, so I don't know if I have enough business cards, so maybe I'll for the artists that are paying, maybe take one of those cards, but otherwise you'll easily find me on saw-center.com is our new website, and I'm always happy to help you, guide you through grant applications, tell you about existing programs that are out there.
Would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on the club, the club part, like,
Okay.
because that means that you're going to be going to a different territory that's beyond visual arts, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So the idea is that now there are no more silos between disciplines at SAW.
Okay.
So
Okay.
architecture, design, fashion, music, theater, we want all these disciplines to kind of sort of come together and
Okay.
create new kinds of babies. So in terms
The
of
space,
music,
just talk about the space.
Okay,
Is
so-
it like kind of like it's an open space, like club kind of feeling, or is it theater kind of setting? Like what is the space?
in the Ottawa landscape, it will be pretty unique because
Okay.
it's sort of like a bar and multidisciplinary venue
Okay.
in one.
Okay.
It'll have, for example,
Will we standing or sitting or?
both. It's
Okay.
flexible in that way too. You can have,
Capacity?
capacity for 300 people,
Okay.
and that would be standing. Then if you're doing a screening and everyone's seated, then you're looking at about 150.
Okay.
But the renters can sort of decide how to arrange the space for their needs. We are subsidizing this venue,
Okay.
so in the past we had a multidisciplinary venue. During the week we would charge 50, and during the weekends 100.
Okay.
That's like nothing. What we want to do in the future is create more partnerships. So one of the things I wanted to say before I left is that this coalition is really important to the city. And this is something you guys can discuss amongst yourselves once I'm gone. But if you guys have any events coming up, or if you want spaces for your meetings, we'll fully sponsor you. So there'll be no rental fees whatsoever. So that's something that we'd like to offer to sort of help you guys out in a way that
Sounds great. right?
might be helpful.
Sounds like unbelievable.
Yeah. So good to be true.
How is self-funded?
Yeah.
So we get funding from Canada Council, Ontario Arts Council, and the City of Ottawa.
Okay.
Then we have another stream of funding that comes from private donations, memberships, that sort of thing. And then we have self-generated revenue from rentals and bar sales.
How long you guys been around?
Now it'll be, what's 1973, 40
Oh,
some,
you're
40 some years.
Sorry, when I said that, sorry. That's
There are no
awesome.
new-
Math is not my forte,
I
but
have a question. So let's say that we are planning to do a festival. When could we do it? Like, if you're opening in July, it's already everything. I mean, like, how's your schedule in that matter?
you know, the summer tends to be a kind of a hub for festivals, because there'll be an outdoor courtyard as well that will have a stage and all kinds of other features. So if you can imagine, there's an outdoor courtyard and it'll be directly connected to the club inside. So with those two spaces, you have a capacity of about 650 people. So, you know, once we have our space built, it needs to be, the fire department needs to come and make a final inspection. So we don't know what our actual capacity will be, but it's estimated as that according to the number of washrooms that we have. The venue is fully accessible for audiences and performers alike. So we have a lift that takes a performer onto the stage. So there's all kinds of very cool features that make the space super accessible to the community.
And also, I mean, like, now that you're saying that, I want to do an official announcement that we got a grant for doing a festival of immigrant and refugee women from OAG.
Yay!
So basically, it would be good to maybe meet later and have a talk and see how could we partner and doing this festival.
It'd be our pleasure to collaborate with you guys.
One last question. So you mentioned an outdoor stage. So that means you will have your, let's say, sound check or kind
All
of
the equipment is on site.
lights.
Yep.
Okay.
Everything, the whole shebang, and that's included when I say sponsorship. All the equipment is included in that as well.
Excellent.
There's no having to rent anything. It's all on site.
Amazing. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you guys.
Thanks for the goodies. Thanks for the goodies. It's
No
very
problem.
rare that we get goodies.
That's great. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Doreen Stevens, she's our friend. She's an artist, songwriter, poet, and she would like to introduce herself too, and also give her some words too.
Well, I'm Algonquin, and I'm a visual artist. I work many years as a performing artist at first, and also I'm from Kibigan-ZB, so I'd like to welcome everyone to, and even myself, I feel very humble and honored to be here amongst all of you. And I know Claudia, I've worked with her before, and Alejandro and Carmel. And so welcome to the Algonquin territory of the Anishinaabe people. And I always feel humble and honored that I myself too feel like an immigrant, as we say, in our own country, because I always feel like I'm a part of what we're all experiencing together. So let's all be a part of it. That's what I'm just glad for participating and helping everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So who's next? How are we gonna do this? Like, are you gonna do it together, or you wanna separate your presentations?
It's up to you. I don't mind starting.
Okay, you can start.
Do you want me to stand up, or can I just
Oh,
do it from
what you feel comfortable? Yeah. Feel
I think from here is fine.
Okay.
I mean, we can all, you can see me, right? And I'm pretty loud anyway. So we're just gonna talk very informally about what I do, about it, from my experience, how I do when I prepare a budget for an artistic project. And I specifically gonna use some samples of budgets from one from the city another one from the Terios Council, and the third one from the Canada Council for the Arts. And why? Because there are the 3 levels of funding for any artist, municipal, provincial, and federal, right? So the most important thing when you have in mind a project and you're putting it together, you need to first understand the discipline. My examples always we're gonna come from the area I work with, which is music, right? But again, I'm just gonna try to provide elements that could be useful for any artist. So understanding first the cost and the revenues. A budget pretty much is just to balance what you're gonna invest and what you're gonna get. So that's the main purpose of a budget. So you need to balance that at the end of the day to make sure or to prove that you have a good thinking in terms of understanding all the needs that you need to put together for your project. If it's a visual artist, I guess the material, the cost of the venue, or artistic fees, all that. And then you need to also, in terms of revenues, you need to not only think about what you're looking for to get from that funding source, but also to have a creative idea of how to diversify your revenues. That is not only, I always try to not to just say, okay, I'm asking the 100% of what the cost of my project to the funder, but to prove them that I also have some other revenues source, like maybe private donors or ticket sales or other
Contributions in kind.
Yeah. Well, contribution in kind will go in a different because those are like will prove, of course, like you're someone resourceful in terms of reaching out people for sponsorship or to kind of help you out with certain things. Like in music, for example, it's very hard to find a sponsorship unless you have, let's say, just one-time project. But let's say you have a festival, you have a series. You could go, for example, to Long and McQuaid, which is the main provider of musical instruments, and then you present them a project, and they want to see kind of like continuity or kind of like something that is just not one time, that have a bigger impact in the community. And of course, it's all about putting together a narrative that makes sense, and you're telling a story, and you also proving that you're gonna impact a certain community, and you have a well put story. So the first sample, which is from the city, this one you will see. Most of the applications have their own template, and this is in some way a great starting point to get you organized, how you put together your numbers, and also understand that it's very important not only to have that just completed. You also need to have what is called budget notes. So it's kind of like you break down. Let's say you're gonna let's go by line, so you have a better idea or picture. So admission fees is pretty much you're gonna organize an event and you're gonna sell tickets, right? So that would be your this is the revenues, all what you're gonna receive, okay? So admission fees, instructional fees is you're gonna provide a workshop or any course, and you're gonna charge for that. Membership means for some organizations that they require to have just an annual membership. So that this is remember that this is a very generic template. So you just have to use whatever applies to your own case, and of course this is I think this one in particular is for organizations, so it's a little bit more open. And then other earned revenue that you need to specify, and of course for this template they give you choices, so you can just check and then choose what if it's better for you. So that's earned revenue. And then you have the public sector support, which is the 3 samples I'm using. This is just the city. So if you have any other revenue coming from the Canada Council or other federal organization that also need to be going there. Provincial is the Terios Council. And of course the city would be just you need to just to state the amount that you're asking for. And then in the last part will be foundations. You want to go to the second page?
Yeah. And do you want to mention the thing of the status? Like sometimes when you haven't been approved,
Oh, yeah.
then you can.
You have to, in the public sector, support sector, you always have to state if funding is already been confirmed. Because most of the time you might ask for an amount and you will never, well, rarely cases you will get the full amount that you are asking for. So you always have to have a kind of plan B, but you will always have, if you haven't received a confirmation of that, that grant, then you have to say pending. So it will be pending or confirmed, will be the two status for that. And then this one will be still part of the revenues. Corporate, in some cases, like those ones will apply for bigger organizations. They have corporations or private sector money. And individual donations, if you have, let's say, a list of donors, like, I don't know, the Ottawa Art Gallery, for example, you see the big wall of all that private donors' money. Special funding, and so that would be kind of like a way to break down all the different revenues that you will be getting in your project. So we're gonna go, this is revenues, the first part of the big part of a budget, and then we're gonna go to expenses. So the expenses, of course, the main portion of expenses for any artistic project are artistic fees. So you will have to declare what is the estimate that you have planned, how many artists are involved, what is the range of payments, because you could have, let's say, you preparing a festival and you're planning to have like a percent, maybe 10 artists, but then they have different ranges, and the artists could be from one individual artist, let's say, from $300 to maybe $1,500. Let's say, depends on what you have in mind. So other artistic expenses, what could be? Could be if you need to, let's say, have another artistic fee that could be not the artist itself, but it could be maybe a consultant or maybe someone, a curator, or someone who will also contribute artistically to the project, but they are not the artist per se. Production will be technicians, sound, who else? Stage managers, anyone that is doing the kind of the labor part of the work. Marketing is another big expense. To me, it's like always the most expensive line in a budget. Why? Because marketing is the key of any the success of any artistic project. If you put a lot of the big amounts in other lines and you just thinking that you're just gonna rely on word of mouth or very small, that's it won't succeed. Why? Because marketing is so important and so expensive at the same time. To have someone who will design the branding in terms of the project, in terms like understanding what the project is about. So that would be from designing a poster to distributing the entire, the entire concept of what you do as a project, and then to reach out not only the community that you be doing. Let's say, let me use again your example, the festival of the immigrant women. So it won't be only to women. Well, you want to target immigrant women, but also you want to target other audiences to come and visit your event, right? So having a marketing campaign manager is expensive. But again, you always have to be creative and find other ways, like social media. Nowadays is so important and so useful. And if you want to target, let's say, audience that is youth, so you need to find someone maybe 20 years old or younger.
The colleges is great for that.
Yeah.
Colleges.
Yeah, the colleges or students, they are now doing marketing majors, so that could be a good way of having kind of like a lower budget service. Yeah. So the rental, that would be the space, mainly the space where you're gonna and what it covers, and then administration, it will be insurance, if you need insurance to cover. This is very important because a lot of people don't know that that's to be, and most of the spaces, when they come with the rent, they don't cover just a one-time event, so you have to bring your own insurance in case something happened to that event that you are hosting, right? So you want to go to the...
Can I ask a question? In terms of insurance, do you have a company that you prefer? Because, for example, for this project, I was supposed to get insurance, and then it has been really hard.
For this project?
Yeah.
For this one?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, because then when I explain the project, the insurance companies are so confused. It's like,
yes.
Like, what?
Yeah, because
what?
Artistic nature events, they're kind of hard for them. The insurance company, they're pretty much black and white. Yeah. So to describe something that is almost like a private event, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do, sorry to interrupt, I do have, so my
I do have
insurance
two ones.
is like people who knows about art. So
Mhm.
Oh, that would
kind
be
of
good to know,
understand
yeah.
what you were talking about.
And the ones I have is mainly just for, but it would be mainly for, because here in some way you control who is coming, right? Because you know who is coming. But when you hosting, let's say, a festival and you don't know who is gonna come and how many people will show up, it's different. Because depends also their capacity. It always have to do with the capacity of the place that you're hosting an event. So the insurance have to be with the capacity, and they have like two kind, like 1 million and 2 million, I think, coverage in terms of.
Yeah, but sometimes the city asks 5 million.
Oh,
coverage,
yes.
and then it's super hard to get that insurance.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I can share the one I have, but it's mainly for live music events. So you could, I'm happy to share that. I can make a note and send you that.
Thank you.
No problem. And you want to go to the next page?
Yeah.
So that one will be fundraiser in case you're doing any kind of campaign to fundraise money towards the same project. And that would be also considered, part of your revenues too. And any other you have to specify, and of course, it's very important always to make note to, even if you made it clear there, always to make what is called budget notes, so you kind of make it more specific. So this is this with the city. So we could go to the next page, which I think, oh no, maybe not. Because this one has another one. You see, that's what I'm saying. That this one will have in a different. Like a bracket would be the total in kind. So the total in kind will go in a different kind of section. Because then it will show, of course, where you're getting for free, but at the same time, I don't know why they don't consider as a revenue. It's just part of the what you have, like part of the budget in terms of
volunteers.
Would be the volunteers hours, and anything. It could be just someone coming to just take picture for you.
Intense services. So I have some in kind.
Yeah.
I get a lot of painting done and I don't have to pay, but I save money.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you getting so many things, you need to also prove that if you are able to get so many things for free, so you need to also prove that you can get other things the other way. You know, like a diversify, so it's not one side or the other. So I think this is the last page of the city. Yeah. So we're going now to the Terios Council, which is a different template But again, going back to my initial tag is mainly just to balance your expenses and revenues. The balance always have to be zero. And this one has a very, very interesting tip. Like for the city, they still in old school. It's all paper. It's all paper application, so you have to complete it on like
PDF or
PDF. They have kind of like a PDF that workable, like you can modify. These ones and the OEC, and same as the Canada Council, they work through a portal. So you have to log in, have your own account, make sure that your profile is updated. For Canada Council, it's like your profile has to be validated. They use different kind of vocabulary, but they kind of seem yeah. But for this one, they have, when you go to the budget aspect of the project, I use because every program has a kind of like similar templates. For this one, I use one which is one of my favorite programs, and I did it in purpose because I want you to look into that. It's called Skills and Career Development. Skills and Career Development is a program specific for indigenous artists, artists of color, and it's mainly to do mentorships or any project that you want to do even outside Canada, and you want to work with someone. Let's say you want to do work about Yoruba in Nigeria, so you want to go there, and so it will cover your travel fees, your expenses, and also the mentor fees as well. So this is one of my favorite. Well, I always advocate for this program, and I always try people to know about it because a lot of people don't know about it, and they feel like if they are not dark, they don't qualify. But you have to. It's very interesting and very successful. I love it. So this one has a really nice tip, writing tip that you can all read.
Yeah.
Can somebody read it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Much
important.
better.
Yeah, and it's important to understand, because a lot of people who apply for Terios Council money, and sometimes they have to they're working on a project that might take maybe 3 months or 6 months. Some applicants, they want to put in their living expenses or their utility fees if they are working, let's say, with a computer. But in this specific program, those expenses do not qualify. So it's very important always to read the guidelines to make sure that you don't put any expense that is not eligible. So you want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I put it in large.
So this one, again, we always start by revenues. Kind of the same kind of structure again, different maybe wording. The revenues, what's what you're getting out of this project. So it will be membership, workshop fees, conference, annual meeting, seminar, anything. The same from the private sector. So this one is a little bit more simple. So that's why budget notes are mandatory. I think for other programs, they are not mandatory, but for this one it's very important because it is very simplified the way they broke it down. And then you of course will, at the end, you're gonna put the amount, the total amount requested. That is, of course, every program have their limits, and you have to, of course, justify your asking. You wanna go to the next one? And of course, you will, in the same public sector section, you will state if you have any other funding source from the municipal or the provincial or other government revenue. So, could you just go back to the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think the last line maybe is not there.
Oh yeah, here.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
So this is the end, the total, that's the end of the revenues, and then we're gonna go to expenses. So the first one is programming. Again, programming, it will be applicant. So what you consider as the expenses you're going through the in order to do the project, and go to the next page. Fees for mentor, like I said, this specific template is for that program that is like a professional development project. Like you're gonna work with a teacher, a mentor, a consultant, and then in some cases you wanna maybe apply for getting a course or like a course or a training opportunity with let's say a university, or there's a very popular institution in Banff that offer so many programs for artists, like residencies and programs to go for any discipline. I encourage you to look into that. Banff Arts Center. So those courses offered there, they sometimes they have like a expensive fee. So those one could be also be eligible to that one. And again, you'll see here, like it will include accommodation, per diem, that they have a limit. Like travel, of course, if you're going international, you have to make sure that you do a kind of like a practical research. Like if you're going, let's say, to Colombia, you have to know, like depends on the time of the year. You need to make sure, like even in the budget notes, you don't, let's say, put like a $3,000 for a round trip ticket, because you know, you make sure like you do a research and you kind of specify, let's say it's over $1,000. Why? Because of the time of the year, round trip, or you go into a multi-city destination, things like that. Accommodation, always try to find something that is standard. Don't go like
5 stars.
5 stars hotels, or just make sure like that everything's aligned with the same narrative of your story and your project. And per diem, they always have like a standard. If it's international, it's around $55 per day, and depends. And that doesn't vary. It could be 55, 45 or 55 Canadian dollars converted to whatever currency, international currency. Even if you're going to Japan, which is super expensive, it might be just enough money for one meal a day.
Breakfast.
Or you're going to China, which is what can cover for 3 days of meal. So it's kind of a standard. So just have that in consideration, and just make sure whatever numbers you put there, it makes sense at the end of the day. So that's pretty much, the total expenses always have to balance zero with your revenues. We're gonna go to the next one. And this is just, I just went briefly to the Canada Council. And I usually, when you go, again, you have to do it through the portal. It will just show the 5 main units, division, what they, the way they put it together. And I just choose supporting artistic practice. So again, the template here is a little bit different. I would say it's a little bit simpler because already give you prefix amounts. For example, if you're going like traveling, it will give you, let's say, you just go to South America, this is a max amount that you have to, you are able just to choose, or you're going to Europe, or you're going to the States, or you're going across Canada, also fixed. You want to go to the next one? Yeah, this is all so here you will see all the specifications, and it's very, very important, again, to always read the guidelines to make sure that you are not entering anything that is doesn't raise any red flags. Yeah. Go to the next one. Yeah, so this is the pretty much, the other two, they were they were just introductory information, and this one is what is just select the main page for budget, and then you just select. You see, you have just the choice to just select where you're going, from where to where, and the date, the return, how many days. It will calculate automatically how many days the project is, and then it will give you automatically the per diem and accommodation maximum, which is 150 per day. And that would, because it's in Excel, it will calculate automatically. That's why I say just a little bit simpler, because that doesn't happen with the OAC.
And with the city, I think now it's calculating automatically, like the new one.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think since 2019, I think it's the new one that is calculating now.
Really?
You just put
Okay.
the info and then you get, you need to.
Okay. Good. And this one has also the choice to have the notes on the side. So, and this is the same format that you will use for later when you have to submit again for your reporting, for the part when you have to report back after you receive the amount, and you have to just state all the changes that you have made and things that you thought it would cost you a certain amount and ended up being more or less, and you just clarify on the line next to it what is that for. So that's pretty much, I think.
Thank you.
If you have any questions,
I
please.
have a question. Because in some cases, in the kind of grants I deal with, when I want to make changes, I have to consult before I make the changes in the budget expenses. Before I incur in the expenditures.
Say that again, I didn't follow
It
you.
depends. If when you are going to make changes in expenditures.
When you already got the grant. You
Yes.
already got it, yeah?
You got the grant, and
Yeah.
you have to
Oh, of
make
course.
changes. Because usually I have to do ask before,
Yes.
consult before I make the change.
Yeah.
I consult with them if they tell me yes
Just
or no.
approve it, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, this is for organizations mainly. And I think, yeah, of course, like any organization that need to be accountable for whatever expenses they have, or changes they have to make in the expenses. Mainly when they receive as well, like, what is it called? Operational funding, which is a little bit different, like from an individual artist. Yeah.
Okay.
Like what was your question? Like you didn't understand
No.
why?
Here when you say that you talk about when you make changes on your rendering the report.
Yeah, because this are templates for individual artists.
Yes.
For individual artists, it's a little bit different when you have budget for organizations. It's a little bit more complicated because you also have to do like capital spend. Like this is totally different.
And also depending
This
on
one
the
I
funding.
prepared just thinking of individual artists because that's what I thought was the majority of the audience, and it would be probably more relevant. But definitely for organization, of course. Yeah.
I have one personal grant, so even for a personal grant, I consulted before. Just before I went and I asked.
No,
I
the
said,
thing
"You can make
is
changes."
like for organization grants, from my understanding, and maybe someone from the city can correct me if I'm saying something wrong, because you receive operational funding, so it's like by year, or you have to. I mean, you have to be accountable for any changes.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's a kind of like.
Yeah, because in some cases, if you don't consult ahead of time,
They can cancel.
That change is not accepted and is
you lose.
You lose the money. Yeah, exactly.
I can answer your question from the city's perspective.
Okay.
The first person to call before you make a funding application is the funding officer.
Mhm.
And our staff are there to support you in the application, to guide you with which program, because the city has 18 different programs. It's
Mhm.
confusing for me.
Mhm.
And even will, once you've done a draft of your application, they can even look over the draft before you submit it. So keep that in mind, the city, and because the city's here, we're here to support you. It might be a little bit more challenging with the Ontario Arts Council, but then you can call them. You can call the funding officers, and the same with the Canada Council. They're here, so take advantage of that
Yeah,
support.
absolutely.
Hi.
And also for feedback, like most of the time you don't get a grant. It's always good to have the feedback, because that's what happens most of the time. Like one application could be perceived in one way, read by one jury, and then you submit the same application in the second round, and then will be read by a different jury, and then will be a different outcome. So it depends on who's sitting in the jury, what the reference they have, what kind of knowledge they have in that specific discipline or background or narrative.
So how long is take to get the grant? Like
How long?
How long is gonna take? Like when you fill the application, and then how long you have to wait?
Well, most of the results come after 4 or 5 months. Yeah, that's kind of an average.
4 months.
The Canada Council, I know because now they don't really have deadlines. Is it different when you work with a deadline? Because for example, with the city, I know most of the programs, they only have one deadline a year. Like for professional artists, they have one deadline a year, and then you know that you have to submit your application before the deadline. And then the deadline was just in January, I think. So it will go, usually by June, they will announce the results. So this is with the city. With the Terios Council is pretty much 3 to 4 months. And from the same 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
So let's say if you're planning to do a project, you have to have that in mind as well. Let's say you're planning to do a project in the fall, like September, this is the right time to kind of submit it. But again, with the OAC, they all have deadlines.
So
only very, very few programs, they are ongoing because they might be just traveling or other kind of...
So I will know in 4 months that I will be eligible for the grant?
No,
or
eligible?
No.
Grant. No. Well,
it
maybe
or
I
you got it or
misunderstood
not?
your question. You were asking about eligibility or the results?
Both. I want to know, first of all, when I'm going to be accepted. I mean, what is the percentage of acceptance? Because usually when you apply for something and then you fill the application and they said, you know, you are not eligible, your income is too high, you have this, you have that. So I want to know what is the percentage of people that getting the grant, and when do you know that you have been accepted?
Well, I would say the first thing to do would be to call the officer of that program. Let's say you're a singer songwriter, right?
Yes.
So your project will be in the music program. So there's someone in the city that oversees the music as a discipline. So that would be the right person. I think it's Adrija.
Yes, exactly.
So she will be the right person to talk, and you will say, this is the project I have in mind. I'm planning to sing with X and Z on that day, and we're planning to do a recording material, whatever the project is. You have to call her, describe it.
Okay, so before I do the application, I have to talk to someone.
Yeah, it's better.
I mean, if you never have wrote a grant before, that will be the starting point.
But there's also, if you open the pages,
There's
they say
guidelines.
who is eligible and who is not.
Yeah.
So if you read it carefully, you right on you will know, yes, I can, or maybe not. And if
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have doubts, then you call. But normally you read the first.
Yeah, it's
The
important.
requirements, in the requirements
It's important to
section.
do a homework before as well. So
Exactly.
when you call the officer, at least you have kind of like a clarity in terms of what you're talking about. Because before you even go any further, you always have to study and read and do some research.
Do your homework.
Do your homework.
I think because of time, maybe we're gonna give time now to Claudia to do your presentation.
Oh yeah,
because
of
it's
course.
already.
No, just answering questions.
Yeah.
Thank
No,
you
but
for your
the-
presentation. Was clear.
I mean, you're free to call. Talk to me anytime later.
Okay. And it's kind of
Connect.
connecting with your question is, when do you know that you can apply for a grant, right? So that you have to go back to the beginning.
That's right.
Because I think this is when you really know that you have a project that you were saying, right? Like that in visual art we would call like a body of work, right? Or a completion of music, I don't know. So when you have that, then you see, yes, maybe I can apply. But when we go to the very, very beginning, so that's what I've been thinking, I'm telling you, and like from my own experience, and it's like the first question before getting to the grant application is, well, how much do I charge for an hour? How much how much can I charge for my paintings or for my work? And that is a big, probably it's even more difficult than this. Because you fill in, right? And you ask questions and you get the answers in your budget, and you with your accountant or with your peers that knows you. But when you don't know your own value, that's a really difficult thing to solve, right? So to be able to get here. So from my own experience, and I can tell you from my different kind of things that I've been doing. So I started working in Canada as a professional photographer, not knowing whatsoever what was the way this business was run in Ottawa or in Canada. So I started just asking, how does it work here? Because it's always different, right? The fees, the ways you talk to your clients, the way the paperwork goes is different. Then I worked as a digital artist, and I started selling my artwork in galleries. That was a completely different story. And then you have to start again, well, if I can charge this as a photographer, that's one thing. And it's the same thing, we're finding a fee, how much do I charge for a wedding, if it's a wedding, or for a picture, for a portrait, if there's copies, if there's not, if I sell you the file or you get copies. It's a huge universe in every single discipline and case and product that you are selling, right? And as a musician, same thing. I do music too, and then we're going through whatever you guys go, like renting venues, knowing how much you pay your musician, how much you charge for my hours or for my services, and how do you apply to these things. And I'm working right now as a community engaged artist, which is a completely different story, where maybe it's a little bit, let's say, easier if you at one point ask people that are doing the same that you are doing to say how much do you charge per hour, how do you work with the schools, how much do you charge for certain things. And still there's just a little bit of that information that you can share with other people, because there's part of that is completely individual. Right, and is knowing how much my work worth, and that is a very difficult thing to know. So I would say that a good way to start is like trying to see how much will you charge per hour of your work. That's, I think, the first more simple thing to answer, and from there you can build, right. So one of the things that you need to, and I'm gonna tell you something. I learned to do this with the experience. Nobody told me this is the way you have to do it. I just and then maybe I'm doing right, because then I know I'm charging this. Maybe it's kind of like this with the calculation, because I didn't know. So since the beginning, and that would be my advice, ask questions. Go to people and ask people who know. There's accountants, or maybe the city of Ottawa, or maybe people that you know that you could get answers from. Go and ask, how would you budget your time? What is the thing that I have to have in mind when I do that? So things that you have to know when you want to know how much your hour of work, and we're not talking about paintings, it's just your hour of work that you can translate into going to paint a wall on a client's building, or painting your paintings to sell in a gallery. That is like a rough calculation. So what you would do is first of all, you would need to know how much your material costs are. Your canvas, your painting, your paper, your brushes, then you know that. Then you would need to know, let's say, and you would, what I would try to do is to know how much do I spend on those kind of things, and try to see, for example, in the case of you, Fabiola, like painting paintings, right? Okay. So you say, I'm going to paint 2 paints every month, let's say this big. That's the way I would do it. So I need 2 canvases, this amount of paint, I will spend this amount of money and supplies, I will spend this amount of hours, right? And then you would put all that in one number and divide it by 20 days, which is the working days, and then by 7.5, which is the working hours. Then you would know that is just for materials. But then you would have to do the same and ask that with things that would be your expenses. Then you will have to take in account your equipment. If you use a camera, or if you use a printer, or if you use a computer, if you are paying, for example, if I'm working with home, and that's a good idea to ask an accountant because they would know very well how you would need to count all these numbers. So if you are using a studio or you have a special space in your home and it's 10% of your house, then that's something that you would put in your expenses. How much of the internet I use, how much of the percentage of the complete budget of light, the insurance, all those things, because those are things that you are supposed to put in your expenses. Parentheses, that's something you think just when you are kind of ahead. At the beginning, I think you just go for it, right? You just paint your paint, even if you are putting from your pocket to sell a paint, you would do it. That's, to me, the normal process. That's the way we all learn and start. And most of all, the way you put your name out there, right? So somebody needs to see your paintings. So at the beginning, you start like doing it for free, volunteering here and there, and it's so hard, right? And sometimes you feel that people are taking advantage of you, but it's up to you if you want to keep doing it or not. And I think we all go through that, and at one point you say, that's it. It's enough. I volunteered, not volunteered because volunteering is a good thing, I still volunteer a lot, but maybe working for free.
Okay.
There's a point where you say, enough, right? Now you pay because I can charge, right? But then you need to know when. That's the difficult thing.
A good metaphor to use for that is you have to lay a foundation before a structure can rise.
Exactly.
So that time is laying the foundation.
Exactly.
So for some people
And it's the only way
it
sometimes.
goes fast, sometimes it's slower, depending on how much time and energy you put in.
And the kind of person you are, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
There's person very outgoing, there's more shy
Reserved,
people.
yeah.
The language is a barrier too. In my case, I think I didn't care. I just went for it in the beginning with a really, really bad English, and I just knocked on doors, showed people my portfolio, and I was telling you, forget your name,
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar, that I started with my portfolio as a professional photographer at Ginjet Photographic in Bank. Remember with the big photography store there at the door, waiting for people who look like a professional photographer.
Blacks and blacks.
No, it was
it was
called
the other
Gin,
store.
Gin Photography.
Yeah,
I think it's gone. And then just stopping people, say, can I ask you something? This is my portfolio. What do you think I can do? And asking for help. And that really they really helped me a lot. I found lots of connections and people who showed me
The
a
rope.
certain way, the way. And so that's the difficult part. So I open a parenthesis to say that, and I was going to talk about the, all your expenses that you put together and you do the same. So when you put your expenses plus your materials, supplies and all your expenses from your house, which is the more if you're working from home, which is the way when you're new, and then you just take the portion that has to do with your work. You put all that together, you divide it by, if it's annual, all those expenses, you divide it by 12, divide it by 22, divide it by 7.5, and then you would know this is what I should get minimum from my hour of labor, because this has nothing to do with your talent or your education or your capacities, right? It's just expenses and your time and the money that you have to invest in that, right? Then, when do I know I'm a professional artist? When do I know I can charge more? How do I know I can be paid more? That is a big question, and I think that has to do, in my opinion, with the amount of work that you start getting at one point. That has to do in the same way with the energy you put in what you're doing, right? So I'm a really big fan of just going out there, knocking doors, showing people what you do, trying to get some work sometimes for free or an exchange. There are lots of people say, okay, I do your photos, maybe you can, I don't know, like trade something, and then you get some visibility. I think when you start doing that and you get to a point where you have things to show, you have to have a tool, like a website, something that you can show. Like people, and social media to me has been a big thing, because people ask who I am. Well, here, my website, my portfolio, And if they need recommendation letters, all those things, that is, I think, is used, but not as it was used before, because you can show. And in our cases, because we're artists, you have things to show because there's physical pieces of like images or music or sculptures or whatever. So it's very important, and I think it's not that easy to build a website. I did mine for free in Tumblr, or there's lots of templates that you can use for free, and Word, what's the name? Tumblr and WordPress and other places that you can just start putting things, your material together, and you grow it. Don't wait too much. I don't know what was that one day hit me and said, you have to do a website, you have to learn about social media, because I had no idea. And I started from zero, like probably 7 years ago, and now I have that, right? Because if you want to build a website with all that you have, right, like it's going to be costly, time consuming, and you wouldn't have the time to do so. Start now, do it in the beginning, start putting things together in a kind of a nice way, and then it will grow with you. That would be a good thing to do. The other thing that to me has been key is that, and I think that's one of the biggest things when you talk about being successful and being able to say, yes, I can charge a little bit more for my work now, is having credibility. And credibility is not just about showing things you've done, but about being able to say, if you ask my client, they can tell you, I work on time, I was honest, I promised this, and they got this or more. If you ask my clients, they will tell you that I can solve problems, that I'm flexible, that I can be reliable, that if there's something we need to talk about, we can talk and solve things, and that you don't get like blocked in certain kind of things. The other thing that I found very important is that when you feel, and it goes, and I remember when you were asking, when do I know I can do that? And I feel like I started to feel that I could apply for a grant or knock in a big corporation to propose a big project, is when I had things to show, but also when I was honestly is not that maybe they can think this is good, not good. When honestly I thought, yes, what I'm doing is all I can do, but also it's a good product. Right? When I had no doubts that I can really deliver what I'm saying I'm gonna deliver, that's the day I can say, yes, I can ask for more, because that means that I went a long time, that I did a lot, that I experienced a lot, that I was able to be flexible and take decisions, and that I know how to handle those situations. So to me, that being honest, not just with your client, but with yourself, to me is key. Because that means that whatever I tell you is true. And I think that shows, right? That you don't have to ask people, please believe me, they will trust you, because it's true. That I believe in that, right? So when you're saying the truth, there's no doubt. So when I feel that I can do it, and I ask a client, okay, let's do this big mural, is because I know I can do it. So those are the things that make me feel that I can apply for grants, that I can talk to companies or institutions, say, yes, let's do this together. Like, oh, wow, I can do it. You know, it's a good feeling, but it's super. I'm scared too, because there's always a challenge. But I know honestly that I can do it. I know honestly that if there's something I don't know how to do, I can ask my client, help me with this, or let's do this together, or let me ask. I don't know that, but let me ask. Right? No, not pretending anything. That makes people feel that they can trust you, being super honest all the time. There's surprises, there's things that happen along the way, there's problems with, not with institutions, with the City of Ottawa, where the big institutions is clear as it is, always. Although there's things that you have to work on sometimes and navigate, and I've done that too. But because everything is written, which is a big tip, everything is written, then you can go back to your contract, you can go back to your email, you can go back to your quote, and you make sure when you sign a quote, you write down the times, the method of payment, who was the owner of the rights or whatever is written, you send the email, but just ask the person to write, yes, I got it. That is as legal as it can be. We don't need any more like signed papers with these kind of things, so that's important. And if you have contracts, well, even better. And so that's a big thing, is to have everything written, so there's no doubt on what you did. When you deal with private clients, it could be different, because as we all know, people think that because you're an artist, well, it's just that God puts the talent on you and you didn't have to spend a dime on that, so you just do it for free because you can do it. So that is very common. So make sure at the beginning you will have to go through that, unfortunately, but there's a point where you say, no, this is my work, this is...
So when you talk about the clients, you even can charge 50% in case of, because sometimes you end the product and they don't want it. So at least if you charge 50% ahead of the contract before, at least your supplies and your time are covered.
Yeah,
You don't lose everything.
Always 50, although people would ask you, no, maybe 20, you have to negotiate, but then it would have to do with, you trust the person, how serious it is, etc. So there's lots of criteria there, right?
Yeah.
But in general, yes, ask for 50%. I just, for example, I got a client in January in Gatineau. They wanted a big mural inside of a new building. And they called me because they saw my big mural in Rito, and they were so, no, because we saw this, and then we want you to work with us. Yes, sure. Then I sent them the quote, and I said 50% now, and 50% when the whole thing is done. And he said, you know what? I don't think we can work that way, because I don't know if I cannot give you money if I don't know the image that you're like, not even the mural, but the design. So I haven't seen the design. How come you want me to pay you for that if I haven't seen the design? Well, you just call me because you're telling me that you like that you saw the mural, that you look at my website, then you trust me or you don't. Yes, I trust you because but this is not the same design, it's something for me, well, you have to trust me. So then I'm sorry I cannot deal with you, I'm sorry I can't either. And that was the end of it. And really, I really wanted to do that. And because of the kind of project that it was, but it would say, you say, how come? You're telling me to tell that you saw that, and at one point, because I have things to show, you have to trust me. I'm not selling you a painting that is done. I'm selling you a service for a design and all the other things. So then you have to work with that too. What else do you want me to say? Well, I could say a lot of things, but in general, to me, the main message would be like being honest with yourself, because the rest of the things, the numbers, you can ask. It's very easy to ask people. There will be lots of people out there to help you with lots of things. But how good or an experience you feel about yourself is on you. So research, study, prove yourself that you can do whatever you think you can do, because if you promise that to a client and you cannot do it, it's going to be like the end of it, right? So that would be my main point.
So when you mentioned about your contract, about the contract, can you tell more about, did you have access to a lawyer, or do you?
It depends. You don't really need a lawyer for things that are, well, for example, I guess you're talking about photography, right? If you're going to get a contract doing photos for an event, for example. That wouldn't be like a kind of a normal thing. It's not a big thing. I needed a lawyer for a big thing that I was doing with the city of Ottawa.
So did you seek legal advice, kind of?
Yes, if there's something that you think is fair and your client doesn't pay attention, and there's something that is signed, then you need a lawyer. You try to talk with your client and try to see if that works, but if not, then you would need a lawyer. Hopefully you don't, but I needed a lawyer at one point where the contract was there and then the things were not understood. So yes, you have to. But make sure all that is important to you is in that piece of paper, big or small, or an email. Your rights, your time, your efforts, the size of the piece of work, the time, the amount of time, of hours that you're going to be working on, if you're, for example, designing something for a client, which is a great difficult part, if I'm designing that mural, for example, I've been lucky to bring the design and yes, we like it. But what if they don't? Like it's completely, sometimes what if we do this here, there, and that's it. But if it's completely the other idea, then you have to have that in mind and you have to write down, okay, we're going to give you this design and I'm going to do 2 or 3 designs. That's it. That's it. And that would be 50% of the job. Right?
Yeah, that's in the specific that you can, sometimes you can give 3 options.
It depends on you
depends,
and the amount of work, because designing 3-4 murals is like a lot of work, right? So, and so it's not a logo, or it can be as difficult, but it depends on the complexity of your work. You would have to see what do you need to.
Okay, so thank you, Claudia. It was really amazing. And I think this is the purpose of these meetings, like that we can share all the experience. And some of us, we are more emerging artists, and then some of you are more established, so then we can work together as a community and build those skills that they take experience and time to develop. So thank you, both of you, for sharing those experiences with us. And now we have like little time. Maybe Nadine would like to give like a little short talk about your work, or if there's something that you would like to share with us.
Sure. Ordinarily, I'm in full-on performance mode, but we're all artists. I don't think we need to be entertained tonight. Sorry, that's supposed to be a joke. Plus, I'm feeling super tired, even though I'm sure I could get up and put on the show, but I'm not gonna do that. If you guys could certainly take a look on YouTube, and there's a poem on there called The Immigrant Child, which is what I'm most known for. I've since expanded upon it, because when you have something that works, continue to work with it, you know what I mean? But there's only so many times I could show up and read The Immigrant Child before they say, wait, we heard that before. Did you? So don't you have any new material? So I've you know, you have to be innovative and creative with the work. I've expanded on it to include the immigrant's child and the refugee's child, and I'm told that they're even more powerful. I've had people with tears in their eyes after I've done the refugee's child. So they're, you know, each in its own right has huge impact, as with all the other pieces that I've written. But you know, there comes a point where you need to look at the business of the art. So for myself, I've not been. I'd be pulling up here in a limo. Let me tell you, if I was properly looking at the business, because I've certainly. It has that potential, you know what I mean? But I haven't even scratched the surface. When it comes to grants, do not show me a grant. I don't want nothing to do with it. My brain, that side of my brain is asleep. But what I've come to realize is we're all skilled in our own, like, I have a great eye, so I think I could be a photographer, but you have a trained photographer. So it's the same thing like a grant. When it comes to grant writing, if you know that you're gonna muddle it, just hire someone to do it. Right? Get each person in their own skill set or their own strength to work on your behalf. And that's where I'm at now. Can you tell? I thought I was asleep. I'm awake now. So
it was a good experience. That's great.
So essentially, you know, there are so many there's so many opportunities for artists out there, right? For myself, I haven't scratched the surface. I know for myself, my brain is asleep on that whole administrative side of what I do, and so I have no problem in finding a reputable, deliverable that doesn't just talk the talk but walk the walk. And so I'm very excited because I'm not interested in. I don't do anything small. I think the whole world is mine. My grandparents told me the sun, moon, and star rose and set on my big forehead when people would mock me that I had a big head. And so I believe that. And so, you know, the opportunities are vast out there. And so I'm big on, and that's why I came, because I'm big on connecting with like-minded people, with other artists, whether it be in Toronto, not just Toronto, we're talking national and international. The world is big. So, you know, I am here. I'm a brilliant writer and performer and all of that, but the money part, the business part is loose. But I certainly will be tightening that up because I plan to be rich. I don't know.
Tell us who you hire.
That's my humor for the night, and now I'm gonna go sleep. It's really great to meet all of you guys, and I certainly hope to, not hope, I will be staying connected for sure.
Thank you very much. It was nice meeting you.
Oh, you want a poem? Oh, Lord. Okay, let me think. So I was just at, okay, so I'll give you guys a choice. Well, let's talk themes. So I just did Viola's 10, which is what brought me to Ottawa. I did the Bank of Canada Museum. They had a noteworthy woman at the exhibition for Viola Desmond. Mm-hmm. So Viola's 10 is my 2018 Black History Month poster. Mm-hmm. And what's really amazing, I'm coming back next Friday because my 2019, it's amazing, you know. From my experience, this is my 11th year as a full-time artist, and I really stumbled upon this. I had nothing to do with art. The background in terms of what made me an artist is my upbringing in Jamaica. Up until I was 15, my grandparents had 12 siblings. My mom was the first of the 12 to leave the island. So I was spoiled rotten, let me tell you. 11 auntie and uncles and grandmother and grandpa trying to be my mom because she left as a baby. And then I come here to Canada. My mom's trying to make up for 15 years that she wasn't there. So let me tell you all that spoiled. No, I'm just kidding. But it's the reading. In the country, the kerosene lamp, we had no electricity. You know, the country life in the islands, you all can get with that. So reading, and I was I feel like I've been on stage my whole life. I was a designated reader because they're preparing me for Canada, the land of milk and honey. And so that's the genesis of, my grandfather and his storytelling about the sugarcane plantations and all. So I think that's kind of where the historical bit of it, because I do a lot of stuff around Black History Month. As a Black artist, you can only imagine like the seasonal stuff that happens around Black history. But it's those memories and stuff that I draw on to do a lot of the writing. But I wasn't doing anything to do with writing. I was going about life, and life happened, and writing became therapy. When I say life happened, I got a divorce and became a single mom to 3 kids. And remember I told you about being spoiled? So imagine this spoiled child. And I was married really young. When I came here to Canada, my old-fashioned Jamaican pastor married us off really quick as soon as we started dating. So that was a disaster because, when you marry people you don't know, it kind of... Nonetheless, that's a background. We're going to be friends, so it's okay for y'all to know about me. So the writing, that's how I stumbled upon poetry. And when I would write something, I would share it with the world. And they would say, oh, Nadine, you're so talented. You got to do something with it. And it's just evolved. And I walked through one door, it leads to another. And it's just been this adventure of discovery, and I'm like, how do I stop? And plus I'm married to my pen. The titles of my books are the culmination of marriage between me and my pen. The second title is With This Pen I Do Tell. The third title is Pen on Fire. And then there are 2 children's books. So if you guys tell me a theme that you'd like me to read on or to say something on, then I would certainly. I know we're big on immigrants. Y'all want to hear, and it seems like so many immigrants around the room. Like, y'all want to hear?
I'm big on the wall.
You're big on the
wall.
The war?
Wall.
Donald Trump's wall?
Yeah.
Actually, I have a piece. You know what? I'll give you guys a little humor in that. It doesn't really have anything to do with the wall, but it references Donald Trump. So let me read it for you. And it's relevant. You know why it's relevant?
Yeah.
I called it Kitchen. It's you guys might have seen that whole business of Gucci, the blackface.
Yes.
Gucci, Chanel,
yes.
Then Katy Perry, he come out with shoes.
Yeah.
And what else happened this week? Burberry with some stupid necklace looking thing like looks like a noose. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
And the politician, when he was a child, he wore something on the face.
He did the blackface. So the whole blackface thingy, that whole thing. So I remember writing a piece called Kitchen when, you remember the H&M did have that shirt, Coolest Monkey in the Jungle?
Yep.
You probably heard of that. So this is what had inspired that kitchen. So because you said wall, it's the least, I would say it's the least, I have a lot of pieces that's like tear jerking or whatever, but it's it's simple, but it might make you think or laugh. It's called Kitchen. I'll hold it out here because I didn't bring my glasses. I'm getting up there in age, let me tell you. The side starts to go. Sorry. In theory, so I called it Kitchen. In theory, coolest monkey in the jungle on a t-shirt should not be a problem. But when worn by a little black boy, it is. And if you really need to ask me why, then you clearly have been living in a jungle, far removed from civilization. One may say endearingly, it is equivalent of calling our little ones pumpkin or dumpling. Imagine for a second that this was Donald Trump's dumpling wearing an H&M tee that said, coolest pumpkin in the patch. Would it be a problem then? You betcha. This is what happens when we're not present in the kitchen. It is impossible to dictate which ingredients are palatable and what are high allergens. It is often too late once we've been handed a plate. Eat or die. We are dying from the poison thought to be edible and delectable, simply because the cooks in the kitchen are not properly schooled on our dietary restrictions and cultural preferences. So they cook up what they think is great food. We are dying from these menus being dished out, and all we keep getting are apologies after apologies after apologies. Kitchen. So make sure you guys take a look at The Immigrant Child on YouTube. Just put Nadine Williams, and that's a more, that would have been a more standing ovation kind of piece, but but it's not every day you have to get, I'm okay with not getting standing ovations every day. Y'all are gonna go home when you go in your kitchen. I bet when you go in your kitchen from now on, you're gonna think. Go ahead.
Why are you so shy?
I'm not shy. Oh no, I'm not shy. I'm a little bit tired. You see, I've been running every day this month. I'm not complaining. 3 and 4 and 5 events a day, and singing and dancing and prancing. So I'm feeling, and I'm working on about 2 hours sleep from last night. So I'm just a little bit subdued in my energy, but I'm not shy, not at all. Shy is not, that is not a word.
He's joking.
So let us for sure keep in touch. Let me find some cards out of this big old bag.
And before we leave, there is one last person that's gonna share some opportunities tonight. So it's Kelty. She is organizing May Works Sarawak, which is the 2nd year, and we'd like to touch on it.
Sure. I won't give a presentation. Maybe just we'll call it an announcement, because I know it's the end of your workshop. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I very much appreciate having the opportunity to come speak to you briefly. How many people around the room are not familiar with International Workers' Day or May Day? Okay, so International Workers' Day is celebrated May 1st of every year. All around the world, for the most part, except for a few countries that maybe recognize Labor Day as the day to celebrate workers' rights. But all around the world, May Day is a day when workers are in the streets, fighting for their rights, speaking out against the exploitation that they experience. And it started with the women workers in Chicago, textile workers who fought for started the fight for an 8-hour day. And so every year, May Day is commemorated around the world, and it is a uniting day for the most precarious people and the majority of the people of the world to share their experiences. So May Works is what we call a festival of working class culture and the arts that recognizes the importance of art and culture in the expression of working people's struggle and their experience, but also recognizes that artists in all their diversity are workers too, who experience precarity in their own experience of making a living, but also have an important role in struggles around the world to express and to inspire people to resist the exploitation that they experience. So we talk about workers broadly. We talk about unionized workers, non-unionized workers. We talk about migrant workers. We talk about diversity of experiences workers have based on their identities and gender, and where they are in the world, and what their experiences are. So last year, Mayworks Ottawa convened an organizing committee and put out a call out for artists well, we actually created a space for artists to present their work as it related to the topic of International Workers' Day. And it was quite successful. It was actually more successful than we had anticipated, which is a good thing. And this year we're doing it again. We have the Arts Court available as a space for the duration, which is the 28th until the May 14th. And so what we're looking for are artists that are interested, or people that you know artists that would be interested. We've had film, theater, we've done book launches and readings, we've had an art exhibit, a photo exhibit. We've had Indigenous artists showing their jewelry, and we're really open to what is happening, and we really want to use the art as a way to better understand people's experience in the community in Ottawa. And so we're starting out, and so the fact that I'm actually able to come here and speak to you and know that this is happening, I feel is exactly why we want to do this. And it's a modest initiative, but it's an initiative that we think has a future. It has a future in terms of collaboration. There's been interest, and I know you don't like the word grants, but there is talk of our ability to make connections through the Arts Court or through others, and be able to think about ways to work together to access funding for this as an Ottawa-based festival that has a long history in other cities. So in Winnipeg and Toronto and Halifax, if you look it up, there's lots of years that I think in Toronto they've been doing it for 30 years. So this is our second year. So yes, and Alejandro was a part of that the first year, and did a really great talk. And I'm trying to remember, the revolution will not
exhibit.
The revolution will not be exhibited was the name of his piece last year. So that is the connection that we were able to make. So Alejandro has the information and is supporting this, so he could provide you with the information, and if you have ideas and thoughts. It's coming up soon, it's a few months, but basically we have the space, we have the funding for the promotion, and we're fundraising to be able to provide compensation to the artists. I can't raise anybody's expectations in terms of being able to, our principal priority is to be able to compensate artists as workers. But we're also in the process of fundraising as well, so we're doing our best to make sure that we can do that. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all for today. Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a really special meeting today.
Alejandro, just one thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we should mention about the coalition and the collaboration.
Oh yeah, sure. You wanna
Well, you can go ahead if you want. And the notice that's going to go out.
Yeah. So before you leave, we are organizing an exhibition too with the coalition, and we are the Multicultural Artists Coalition, but Carmel is also creating a new coalition of Indigenous artists, and we're gonna have a show in May from the 11th May to the 25th. And I'm gonna send the open call next week. So if you are not in the mailing list, please give me your email. So I'm gonna send the call out. It's gonna be open to all of us, and the priority will be Indigenous, immigrant, and refugee artists.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. And all out. Yeah. It's gonna be good. Yeah.